Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women Winning Wednesdays. I'm your host, Maryland attorney Elsa W. Smith, and I'm the owner of the Maryland estate firm, the law offices of Elsa W. Smith, where our mission is to empower women through estate planning. Y'all, before I get started, I just want to say that it's the beginning of December already, and we have been airing episodes of Women Winning Wednesdays since the end of April. So pretty much 6 months. Can you believe it? It's been incredible. I thank all of you who've been watching every week. And for those of you who are new to the Women Winning Wednesdays audience, welcome. My hope is to bring you educational content and guest interviews to really give you glimpses of what an empowered woman is and the tools that she needs to win. So today's topic, let me get right into it, is we're going to talk about fears about estate planning and how to overcome them. So fears about estate planning and how to overcome them. As a reminder, since we're streaming on StreamYard, be sure to give StreamYard permission for us to view your comments. So go to StreamYard.com/Facebook. You only need to do it once. But if you want to comment or ask questions during this episode, feel free. But that's the only way that I'll see that you're asking a question. So the way I'm going to do this episode is I'm going to break it down into two parts. The first part, I'll identify some common fears, and specifically 5 of them. And then the latter part of the episode will be talking about, of course, how to overcome those fears and my suggestions. So let's get right into it. You know, by nature, we as human beings, we are wired to avoid things that make us uncomfortable, things that we fear. So, as I said, this is part 1, and we're going to talk about 5 common fears I believe that we have surrounding estate planning. So the first one is the fear of your own mortality or death, right? Now, this is a very natural fear to have. Most of us don't want to die and have a healthy fear of actions that would increase the likelihood or the risk of death. Now, estate planning does require you to think about how your assets will be distributed or disposed of after your death. So, of course, it's natural to think of estate planning and death all in the same thought. And interestingly, this fear can cause people to act differently, even irrationally, from how they typically would act under different circumstances. I want us to be mindful of the stories that we are telling ourselves when we're, dealing with this fear of death. Dr. Russell James has done extensive research on the topic of mortality salience. And all that is mortality salience, say that again, is just the awareness of individuals that their death is inevitable. Okay. Dr. James is from Texas Tech University, and he describes 5 ways that we avoid mortality salience. And they are, as he describes it, first, it's distraction. So an example is, oh, I'm too busy to worry about that now. The next one is differentiation. For example, it doesn't apply to me because I come from a family of people who live a really long time, so I don't have to deal with estate planning. The next way is termed as denial. The worries about death, you guys are overblowing it. It's not that important. The next way is delay. I plan on worrying about death or thinking about it later. Okay, so you're pushing it off. And then the last one he calls departure. That means I'm just going to stay away from anything that reminds me of death. Okay. Now, don't worry. I'm not going to get into the weeds and have a mortality salience discussion. That's not the point of this episode. But I bring it up, I touch on it because it's a reminder that estate planning is a very personal and human experience. Those of us who are estate planning attorneys like myself, who strive to really provide a richer and more meaningful experience for our clients, we understand that estate planning is impacted by emotions, psychology, and even neuroscience. Now, what is the next fear? It's the fear of rocking the boat. Many estate plans are never prepared because of strained relationships between spouses or with other family members. Discussions about financial issues can be very emotional or even taboo in some families, and can even inflame existing tensions. So you may have a tendency to postpone estate planning just to avoid dealing with those tensions. Sometimes you may need to have a family meeting to discuss your plans with your spouse. Go in with the objective of listening. Sometimes people just need to be heard. And even after that, you still may have differences of opinion with your spouse or with other family members. And while it's ideally best to plan your estate with your spouse and, key or important family members, if conflicts and communication problems can't be resolved, and, sometimes, let's be honest, that's the case, then it may be better to just prepare your estate plan alone rather than not at all. So in other words, I'd rather you have an estate plan and you pushed forward with it, because at least you are protected and you're, making an attempt to protect those that you love. Estate plans can be adapted and adjusted over time. The next fear is fear of fostering a sibling rivalry by treating heirs differently. Now, depending on your parenting philosophy, you have to decide whether you want to provide for your children and grandchildren in your estate plan. In other words, do you want to split everything between your heirs, or do you want to provide more for some than for others based on their need and situation? The answer to this question is going to depend on your unique circumstances and intentions, and it may take some soul searching, right? Some people believe that it's crucial that everybody in the same generation, whether it be children or grandchildren, be treated the same, equally, just to prevent family discord and conflict. And other people believe that it's crucial that everybody, that because everybody's situation is different, each person in a generation should be provided for in a way that gives them all the same access to opportunities and advantages in life. So in other words, a fair or equitable distribution as opposed to an equal distribution. But again, it depends on your philosophy, and there is no right or wrong answer to this. One child may make more money than, a sibling, or one grandchild may have special needs while the others do not. So those differences in your situation might make different amounts required, or appropriate, I should say, in the inheritance that you decide to leave that particular child. The next fear is fear that the heirs are going to squander their inheritance. Now, you have certainly worked hard to create and maintain your wealth. Now, you've spent where you needed to, and you've saved in other areas. So it's reasonable to fear that when you pass along that wealth, or what remains of it after you've had an opportunity to enjoy it, your beneficiaries will not share your money philosophy of spending and saving. Now, to deal with this fear, you can include provisions in your estate plan to list exactly what the money that you are leaving for your loved one can be used for. So you can assign conditions to it. If your intent is to provide your loved one with an education and say maybe seed money for their first business, you can restrict the use of money to those purposes. If you have a trust, for example, you can select successor trustees who will make trust distributions in accordance with your long-term objectives for your money and for your loved ones. This means that, for example, if your loved one wants a wild weekend in Cancun and your intent was to use the money for her education, she's going to have to look for that money elsewhere. Okay, simple as that. The next fear is a fear that someone will take advantage of your heirs. Unfortunately, you get a lot of friends and cousins who come out of the woodwork when they learn that someone has money. Many people are going to try to take advantage of others with money, leaving you, understandably concerned that this could happen to your beneficiary. This could even occur in a situation where someone marries your beneficiary solely for the purpose of the money they have inherited, only to later divorce them, and take the money as profit. For these reasons, it's very important that you correctly establish a proper estate plan with the help of a qualified estate planning attorney in your state. She can ensure that your loved one may only access the money for certain things, which can help protect them from being preyed upon by others. Now, we've identified some common estate planning fears, and in fact, we've identified 5 of them. Now, how do you overcome them? This is part 2 now. We're going to talk about overcoming your estate planning fears. This first step in overcoming fears about money and estate planning, the key is to really have an open and honest conversation with your loved ones about it. Now, to help you prepare to create your plan and discuss it with your family, I want you to consider how you would answer the following questions. What does money mean to me? Am I concerned that I'm going to run out of money? Am I comfortable telling my family about my plans for my wealth? Do I worry about creating an entitlement mentality among my children and grandchildren and other heirs? If I leave a large sum of money, do I think that future generations are going to squander it or waste it? Do I think outside influences will take advantage of my children and grandchildren if I leave them a large sum of money? Will the organizations I want to help financially, will they honor my wishes once they receive my gift? Again, questions for you to ponder. Another way to deal with your fears is to remember what estate planning does for you. Thinking about death allows us to really live intentionally. It allows us to remember what is important to us. Remembering that this one life is finite, and it helps us that helps us to find meaning and be intentional with our actions, rather than the perfect selfie or the perfect salary. You might think of spending time with people that really matter to you, doing things that make you happy, and leaving your impact on society. Thinking about death brings us closer to our values, and it helps us think about what the point of it all is. Ask yourself, what are things that you value? What do you stand for? And what do you want to be remembered for? And what do you believe is your purpose? And then start moving in that direction. Estate planning also helps you in handling family pressures. It's no secret that talking about your estate plan is not easy sometimes. Like you are, navigating family pressure along the way, which adds another layer of complexity to the situation. The best way to deal with this pressure and really tackle it head on, as I said, have open, honest, and highly transparent conversations with your spouse, kids, family, and other loved ones who are part of the process in any way. This also gives you the opportunity to talk to those who are most important to you about your wishes. I recorded a video on my YouTube channel a while back where I talk about bringing back family meetings and talking about important issues at the dinner table. Hearing these things directly from you allows you to be all, hopefully, on the same page, and brings honesty and truth to a relationship, which will not only ensure your wishes are carried out as you intend, but it'll also strengthen that relationship with your loved ones. Talking about estate planning opens up space for family growth and building relationships, as opposed to causing, divisions and separations. The other thing estate planning helps us do is helps us deal with our concerns of giving up control. Let's face it, we are all control freaks, yours truly included. We all have our own way of doing things, and it's really hard to change those habits once they are formed. Estate planning can in some ways feel like a loss of control, which is really unsettling for many of us. But in fact, estate planning is really just the opposite. It gives you complete control over your legacy, both now and in the future. It gives you the opportunity to set things up in a way that makes sense to you. You can use your estate plan to establish maybe a schedule of charitable giving, or passing down precious art collections or other collectibles. And you can even help support a loved one's educational pursuits. When you commit to designing your estate plan from the ground up, you're able to design each piece to function in the way that you want, in the way that's true to who you are and the legacy that you want to leave. Use the opportunity of crafting your estate plan, to be intentional and meaningful with the assets that you have amassed throughout the years. Remember, legacy planning isn't about just planning for a future that you can't see. Your legacy starts right now. Your legacy is established every single day. And each day is a new opportunity to grow and to strengthen it. So estate planning isn't about losing control. It's about gaining a whole new perspective and dimension to your estate planning journey. And today we talked about fears around estate planning and how to overcome them. I shared that the fears are very real and even involve psychological factors. I then shared tips on how to overcome those fears. What I hope that you learned is that while estate planning fears are common, they don't have to block you from moving forward. You can overcome them. And listen, you don't need to have everything figured out. Estate planners like myself are trained to listen to your concerns, answer any questions you have along the way, and provide you with options that you may not have considered that are going to help you meet your goals. If you don't even have an estate plan, I created a guide to help you get started. It's called the Jumpstart Estate Planning Guide. Get the guide, it's free. You can go to my website at elsawsmithlaw.com, go to the resources tab, and there you find it on the dropdown. More importantly, use it, share it. I'll post the link to that guide underneath this video. I want to thank all of you for tuning in to Women Winning Wednesdays each week. If you need assistance with estate planning in Maryland or DC, I want you to give our office a call. Set up a strategy session. Reach out to us. We are here to help. Join us next week for another episode of Women Winning Wednesdays. I'm attorney Elsa W. Smith, your Maryland estate planning attorney, empowering women through estate planning. Take care, everyone.